Today, we're looking at Krishna's Mint. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Krishna's Mint is a green ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Pilot Metropolitan with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography. And I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. Now this is a very light green, and it shows in the chromatography. You see very light green across the bottom, and then you see yellow push up from the water. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And the green across the bottom is much more there. It is a very clear there line. The yellow pushes up, very little of the green pushed up. That's the major difference. It makes you feel like the green might want to stay around in your pen. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles it okay. It's just that it's such a light color that it sort of looks washed out with the yellow. So the ink itself is handling the highlighter very well. It's the problem of the tones. Water reactivates, lifts the darker tones, but leaves all the lighter tones. It's lifting some. We do see the beginnings all around the edges there where it looks like the white of the paper is going to be coming through. Now I only gave that water 30 seconds to get rid of the ink. Seeing how light it's getting around the edges does make me feel that water is all that it would take. Pen Flush did everything that water did and really nothing more. We see some of the same effects, the same beginnings of the white of the paper coming through with only 30 seconds. The 1/3 bleach solution, as you would expect, completely removed it from the paper, but there should be no need to use a bleach solution. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Krishna's Mint has a viscosity of 2.42, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Krishna's Mint has an average dry time of 8 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in bottle form when I ordered a whole bunch of Krishna inks. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, it has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some shading. Now when it shades darker, it's nice and easy to read. It's a great color. Unfortunately, the shading I'm seeing is the light part. It doesn't shade from light to dark. I see it shading lighter. So like the S is so light you can barely see it. The mint is quite difficult to see, and it's not the camera playing games. Now it's easier to see in person than it is on camera, but it's still, there we go, camera got a little better. It's still not the greatest in colors there. Now when we go to the extra fine has the exact same tones that we're seeing with the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer quite a bit of shading. Same problem with the shading. Like in Quick, from the C, part of the C disappears and it looks unjoined to the K. The top of the B in brown is so light it's hard to see. So when it shades and it shades dark, it's a great color. The light side of this shading is unpleasant. It took 5 seconds to dry. Now medium got slightly darker, a little heavier ink flow with it, so it got a little darker. The medium had no feather spread, halo sheen. It did shade. It shades a lot. It shades very well. And because it went down heavier, it's much easier to see. There's none of those spots that are so light you can't see, like up on the quick at the extra fine. We don't get that at all down here. Even on the T and the, where it's much lighter, you can see the T. Over this is much lighter, but it's still easier to see. You can read it. It took 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us plenty of color variation. We did see a lot of color variation. Now, unfortunately, the base color of this ink is so light that if you smear it, you don't stand a chance to see it. So, Tomoe River. Tomoe River gives us no bleeding. It does give us ghosting. Not heavy ghosting, but some ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some shading. Again, we're dealing with that problem of it is just too light, quite frequently. With it being so light, when it shades, and it shades to medium and dark tones, it's fantastic. But the far left side of the K, very hard to see. Extra fine. Same tones that we got with the 1.1. It has no feather spread, halo sheen. And there is some shade, but it's not a ton. Sorry. Just taking an extra note on this about the nib and flow that's really needed for this ink. Because I'm writing with a Metro, and I really wish I wrote with a broad wet pen to take my notes for this, just to see how that would do, but it's sort of whatever pen comes up. So yeah, almost no shading with the extra fine. Took 9 seconds to dry. The medium, it got to be a darker tone. With that darker tone, it had no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have shading. The shading is much nicer to see here. You see a lot of shading in the word quick. It starts dark, gets light, gets dark again, very dark on the K. Very nice. Brown, while it shades down to some lighter tones, it's never unreadable, which is good. And again, this comes through much better on camera than it is in person. The 13 seconds to dry. The extra fine and the medium scrubby both show us plenty of color variation. Sorry, the extra fine shows us none. The medium shows us plenty of color variation. The color variation we got in the medium, we had none in the extra fine, we had none in our extra fine. And again, the smear, it's too light to be able to see, and it's Tomoe River. I don't know. Rhodia paper had no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather spread, no halo, no sheen. Very little shading came through. We do see some shading on the hoop of the H, and the A is a little bit darker. And mint, let's go to manual focus. There we go. While mint is a lighter tone, it's difficult to read. The same tone goes on with the extra fine. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, very little, almost no shading to be actually seen in the writing. The X in Fox is darker than the rest of Fox. The B in Brown is darker than the rest of Brown. The K in Quick is darker. We get spots of shading, but really not very much. And 6 seconds to dry. I actually have had to just start watching the monitor because I'm looking at the paper, and that's why I'm getting lost. I have to watch the monitor where it's much easier to see. So if you like reading through a camera and its monitor, then this is a great ink. It looks much better on camera. Medium, a much darker tone with no feather spread, halo sheen, and plenty of really nice shading. Look at Fox. Starts really light, gets really dark. Quick starts dark, gets lighter in the middle, and then gets darker again. Very nice here. Okay, Lazy starts with the dark at the bottom, light at the top. A is dark. The top of Y is dark, and the bottom of the Y is light. So really nice shading within that word. 9 seconds to dry. Now the extra fine and the medium scrubby showed us quite a bit of color variation. We did get some up in the extra fine, not a lot. We got much more in the medium. And still, that smear test, you could not recover this. So this is Hazel paper. These are the Hazel notebooks. I ordered them when I ordered the inks. And I find the paper is really, really agreeable. I find that the paper handles just about every ink quite nice. It is a toothier paper, so if you don't like super smooth paper, this is a good way to go. And on a pocket notebook, this is a winner. So the hazel paper, we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and very little shading. Very little. Okay, the K looks a little bit darker than most of the Krishna. The H is a little bit darker. Mint is a much lighter word. The extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen. It offers little bits of shading. It's the same tone that we saw with the 1.1. The little bits of shading are like the K in quick is a little bit darker. The B in brown is a little bit darker. The looks darker than all the words around it. So it's nice in that way. Still just a very, very light ink, harder to read. 2 seconds to dry, even with that fast dry time. The medium is a little bit darker tone, just a little bit. Not a ton darker, but it's enough darker. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading, not as much shading as we'd seen in the past. The shading shows up much more with Fox, where we see the X is much darker than the rest of the Fox. Where that looks light, that's where I tend to put my thumb while I'm writing. And if you look at the rest, it's mostly one tone. Lazy starts getting lighter, dog gets lighter, but then the 3 seconds got darker again. So we do see some shading in the writing, not a tremendous amount. 3 seconds to dry. Now the extra fine and the medium scrubby. The extra fine shows us some color variation. The medium shows us none. We did get kind of a little up here, not a whole lot, probably about as much as we saw there. And here shows us none, and we barely got any there. And the scrub or the smear, it's still just a very light ink, too hard to see. Now this is Canson Bristol board. It's an artist paper to use, so it's very nice. Nice toothy paper, holds on to things real well. It has no bleeding, no ghosting. I would be surprised if that happened. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. In the exact same tone for the extra fine, it has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 4 seconds to dry. Now when we're looking at the medium, remember I tend to put my thumb right about here, so if we ignore that part, looking at the medium, it has no feather spread, halo sheen. It offers little bits of shading, little bits. Like Fox starts lighter and gets darker. Brown is a very dark word. Lazy is a very light word. The starts light and gets dark. It took 6 seconds to dry. When we look at the scrubbies, the extra fine shows us a little bit of color variation, and we didn't get any up here. And medium shows us almost none, and we got a little bit more, but neither of these would I really consider shading. And the smear test, the smear, you can't recover it. It's just such a light ink. And that is all that I have for the writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Krishna's mint, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, because it was such a light green, I had a monochromatic feel about it, and I wanted to go with a much darker green. That led me to Diamine's Salamander, because that is a lovely dark green. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Krishna's mint? As you're writing with it and putting it down on the page, it seems too light to be possibly usable at all. However, with broader, wetter nibs, more ink goes down and it's easier to see, but there's a good news part. It gets darker, significantly darker, as it dries. Now, it does not become a dark green, but it does become a readable green. So don't be afraid of the color you see just as you put it onto the page. So there is some redeeming with this ink. Thanks for watching.